माधवती थी भक्ति जननी जतन पालन कोरी माधवती कृष्ण बासती बोली परम आदर बोरी कृष्ण बासती गौरा अमरा ये सब स्थान कोराल ब्राह्मण रंगे से सब स्थाना हेरी बोआमी प्रणय भक्त संगे मृदंग बाद्या सुनीते माना अबसरा सदा याचे मृदंग गौरविहिता कीर्तन सुनी आनंदे हृदय नाचे गौरविहिता युगल मूर्ति देखिया मोरा परमयानंद होया युगल प्रसाद सेवा कोरिते होया सकल प्रपंच जया जय दीन गृह भजन देखी गृह ते गोलोका भाया ये दीन चरण सिधु देखिया गंगा सुखन सीमा पाया तुलसी देखी जुड़ाया प्राणा माधव तो शनि जानी गौरा प्रिया शाखा सेवाने जीवन सार्थक मानी Bhakti Vinoda Krishna Bhajane Anukula Paya Jaha Bhakti Prati Divase Parama Sukhe Svikara Koro Yeta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much, and before I begin, I'll request your permission and blessings to try and share something with you on this beautiful topic that we have with us for the coming days. Reflections on transformation. So just trying to, before I begin, pick up on the thread of His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj this morning. This very beautiful definition of bhakti that Rupa Goswami gives. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. When we talk about transformation, actually what we're talking about is a removal of upadis. A removal of upadis, a removal of anarthas. We find another verse in the Bhagavatam, anartho pashamam shakshad bhakti yogam adhoksajay, that all these anarthas which are superfluous to our identity can be immediately eradicated by the linking process of bhakti. So when we talk about transformation, in one sense, to frame it correctly, transformation in Krishna consciousness is actually just the awakening of something that is already there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoi. That love for Krishna is already established within the heart. So we've become so much removed from our identity by having all these false identities. Maharaj talked about the different labels and designations we give ourselves. One English writer, he goes further and he says, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am, but I'm who I think you think I am. In other words, he goes even further. He says, we're not even attaching false labels on ourselves. We're not even who I think I am. We're not even who you think I am. We're a perception of an illusion. That's how much removed from our identity we've become in this material world, which is a river of names, the Bhagavatam says. And so really it's about getting rid of all these upadis. Another French writer, he talks about destructive enlightenment. And he says that enlightenment is not when there's nothing more to add. Enlightenment is when there's nothing left to take away. In other words, it's a destruction. In the words of Bhakti Swami, to die before you die. In other words, to kill the false ego before we leave this world is really perfection. So I'll try to share some thoughts with you. Try Transformation, I think, is philosophically, it's a very clear topic, but practically in our own life, how it occurs and how it happens and why it's not happening is a very complicated subject with many, many different nuances. And therefore, in this session today, I'm going to try and keep this very open. If at any point you'd like to raise a comment or a question, then please feel free. And at certain points, I may just pause and ask you to just discuss something. Is that okay? Yeah? And in that way, perhaps we will benefit from each other's realizations on this topic of transformation and go away with some valuable gems. Transformation is what we seek. This is a very famous quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur was visioning how to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, one of the first major milestones was he sent a book to McGill University called Sri Caitanya, His Life and Precepts. And at the end of this book, he makes this very wonderful statement. He says, "We make no objection if the reader does not believe his miracles, as miracles alone never represent the Godhead. It is unlimited prema and its overwhelming influence on others, which can be seen in no one other than God Himself. We leave it to our readers to decide how to view Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu." So this is incredible. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying Mahaprabhu did so many miracles. In his life, he did so many miraculous things. But those miraculous things don't prove that he's God. The one thing that proves that he's God is the incredible intensity of love that he himself exuded. But not just that, the love that he was able to awaken within anyone who came in contact with him. In other words, the efficacy of a divine process is measured by its ability to awaken love within those who practice that divine process. That's the ultimate proof. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. Prem ras niryas karite ashvadhan raga marga bhakti loke karite pracharn. That he came to this world to give prema ras, the ability for anyone and everyone to taste what love is like. And therefore this awakening of love is really the main transformation that Mahaprabhu created in the world, and which proves that he is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this awakening of prema is the transformation that we seek. And transformation of the heart is so important, number one, for our own life in Krishna consciousness. Because unless there is ongoing transformation within us, there is a very good chance that we will become bored with the practice of Krishna consciousness. Because you may notice that in the Krishna consciousness movement, the externals don't change that much. Over all these years, the mantra didn't change. Over all these years, the books that we read didn't really change. Over all these years, the festivals that we celebrated didn't really change. After some time, you'll get familiar with all the activities of Krishna consciousness. And what that means is that unless there's a deeper transformation of the heart, unless there's a deepening experience of these angas of bhakti, unless one is accessing more and more profound levels of realization by doing these things, there is a very good chance that at some point you may get bored and give it up. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, don't be surprised who leaves the movement, be surprised who stays. Because that is a that is requiring a a deep transformation going on within us. So if we want to stay interested in spiritual life, if we want to stay inspired, enthused, it's very much dependent on an ongoing transformation of the heart. Otherwise, we will begin to lose momentum and become stagnated, and stagnation can lead to dropout. Transformation of the heart is also so important for the mission that we have as given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And what is that mission? To somehow or other try and spread Krishna consciousness to every town and village, to every heart. We can't really be able to change or make a change in the world or create transformation in others if we ourselves have not been transformed. Because when people come and meet devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement, we are the advertisement of this process. And if people see us and they see no transformation, they see no change, they see no improvement, then they won't be that convinced. I always remember the story of Jayananda Prabhu, who was someone who had such an amazing change of heart and who was able to change so many hearts. And he used to go out and collect for Rath Yatra and encounter all kinds of people, inimical people, people who weren't into Krishna consciousness, but he'd charm them by his love, by his bhakti. And when he passed away, some of the devotees continued going to the places he was going to. And one devotee went to a place, there was a lady, she would give out the permits for Rath Yatra. She was very kind of unfavorable, but somehow Jayananda would charm her. And so they went the next year to collect the permit, and she was kind of grumpy as usual. But she said, where's my friend, Johnny Ananda? And the devotee said, no, he's passed away. He had leukemia, he passed away. And he said, this lady just began crying. This lady who was so heavy, who was so inimical, who was so like against the devotees. She just began to cry, and she said, I never met such a nice person in my whole life. And then she said something amazing. She said, I don't know anything about what you guys do all day. I don't know what your philosophy is. I don't know what you believe in. I don't know what your worldview is. But if Jayananda is with you, you guys must be good. So that was such an interesting point, I thought, that just by him, just by his own transformation, just by his own purity, that is one of the most convincing things for the world. We are the advertisement of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said to Hari Sauri Prabhu, preaching is easy business. Just show people how happy you are. But to be truly happy, you can't be happy if you're in Maya, no matter how much you try, even to show. Smiling faces, crying hearts. People may show so much of happiness, but where is it unless the heart has changed? There's no. Therefore, transformation is so important in our life, in our ongoing endeavor in this journey, and so much for our service to the world, which is try to spread Krishna consciousness. So today what I'll try to do is, we know philosophically where we're trying to go with transformation, but I'm going to try and share with you some thoughts I had on this, about why transformation may not be as straightforward as we think. Transformation is individual and transformation is complex. Therefore, on paper, it makes complete sense, but in our life, I think practically all of us, or many of us, will say we're struggling with transformation. And why is it? Why is it that transformation is so complex? So today what I'll try to do is share some reflections on this, and then perhaps in the next 2 days we'll go deeper into the Bhagavatam directly and discuss something from there. Transformation is complex. That's a complex subject. When it occurs, when should we expect it to happen? What are the order of things we should look for in order to have confidence that it's happening? That's a complex subject. And what causes transformation to come about? What triggers transformation? That is also a complex topic. And underlying all of it, I want to share with you some reflections on blocks to transformations, psychological blocks that we may have, or psychological dispositions we may have, which block our ability to transform ourselves in Krishna consciousness. So I'll go one by one, and then I'll be stopping at certain points to take your reflections. So please do help me out by participating and sharing your reflections. It will be much nicer. Okay, so how it occurs. We know that the ultimate transformation we want to go through is to awaken love for Krishna. Kaviraj Goswami says in the Caitanya Charitamrita, Prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivan das kori vetan more deha prema dhan. Kaviraj Goswami says, Prema dhana vina vyartha. If I am devoid of prema, daridra jivan, then you have to consider me to be a very impoverished soul. Therefore, what is Kaviraj Goswami's prayer? Das kori, please Krishna, make me your slave. And I only ask for one salary, one remuneration. Deha prema dhan. I become your servant and you just pay me the salary of the wealth of prema. I want to develop my love for you. I want to awaken my love for you. The development of prema is the ultimate transformation. Therefore, when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the stages that we go through, Ado Shraddha, which begins with faith, then where's the culmination of that journey? Prema, love. That is the cherished goal, the cherished aspiration. Prema pumartho mahan. The traditional Vedic literatures say that there are 4 goals of life, but according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's a 5th goal of life, and that 5th goal of life is love. So love is what we seek to awaken. However, the scriptures also measure or mention many other things around the development of prema that can help us assess our transformation and help us assess whether that prema is actually awakening. Because if we look into our hearts and we say, how much love do I have? It may be hard for us to measure that, and may be hard for us to quantify that. So what the Shastra does in its ingenuity is it gives many other indicators of things that you can look at within yourself to actually assess whether this transformation is happening. And here are some of those things. The first thing is, are my desires transforming? When they asked, or when Srila Prabhupada writes in his purports about transformation, one of the most basic indicators of transformation that he gives is that your material desires are reducing and your spiritual desires are awakening, are blossoming, are growing. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. That one's spiritual desires, one's absorption in spiritual desires becomes so great that the material desires just disappear. The material desires become trumped. And therefore one can assess and look within them. Are my desires transforming over decades of practicing Krishna consciousness? Do I still desire the same things? Or how have my desires changed? Are my desires changing? This is one measure we can look at. Another measure that's given, or another indicator that transformation is taking place, is our own character. We hear in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunays tatra samatase suraha, that all the good qualities of the demigods become invested in one who has awakened bhakti. And so, if you look in the Gita, on probably 4 or 5 occasions, Krishna brings up the topic of what are the qualities of a self-realized soul. What are the divine qualities that should manifest within someone? Ahimsa satyam akrodas tyaga kshantirapeshanam dayabhuteshvalo luptvam mardavam rerachapalam. Krishna, for example, says ahimsa, non-violence, tyaga, renunciation, kshantir, forgiveness, all these qualities, daya bhuteshva, compassion towards all living entities. One can look at their own character and see, am I actually awakening the divine qualities? How is my character actually changing? If one is increasing in prema, then definitely their character will change. There's no doubt. Another measure or another indicator that's given of transformation is what is the quality of my faith. The quality of faith that we're trying to reach is given in Caitanya Charitamrita. Shraddha shabde vishvash kohe sudhrida nishchoy Krishna bhakti koile sarva karma krita hoy. That Shraddha in its most pure sense means that one has the firm conviction that if I serve Krishna, everything else in my life will be done. That if I do that one thing, if I put my emphasis there, then everything else in my life will be done. Whereas in a compromise stage, one feels I should do some service for Krishna, but I also have many other things that I need to take care of. Because I'm not sure. Like, Krishna is nice, but maybe I just need to make sure I cover my base on this one. But no, when one is having that pure faith, that nishta, that conviction, then they know, if I serve Krishna, everything else will be okay. Another measure of one's transformation and growth of or awakening of prema is their commitment to the practices of Krishna consciousness. When Rupa Goswami is outlining the symptoms of bhav, then he's explaining Shantera vyarthakalatvam viraktir manashunyata ashabandha samutkantha namagane sadaruchi. One of the first characteristics he gives of bhav is avyartha kalatvam. That one who is actually growing in their emotion for Krishna, their prema for Krishna, they can't stand to waste a moment of time. Their commitment to being constantly connected in activities of devotion is so great that they can't stand to waste any time. So such a strong commitment. These are again clear things that one can assess within their own character. Here's another one. Habits, lifestyles, and the influence of the modes. As one's love for Krishna is increasing, as one is becoming purified by the practice of bhakti, then naturally they will elevate themselves through the modes. Isn't it? Krishna says, or is said in the Bhagavatam in those famous verses. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalo badayaschaye cheta etarana vidam stitam sattve prasidati. That when one develops the urge to hear the messages of Krishna, then Krishna within the heart cleanses the desire for material enjoyment. And then what's the next thing that happens? Tada rajastamo bhava kamalo badayaschaye. The effects of passion and ignorance disappear. Cheta etarana vidam stitam sattve prasidati. One becomes established in sattva. So is my inclination natural? Rasika. He said, the taster tastes the taste because of good taste. The taster tastes the taste because of good taste. In other words, if one becomes a rasika, then one can relish rasa. And when one relishes rasa, then one naturally, rasovarjam, they give up the lower rasa. So another way we can measure our own advancement or transformation in Krishna consciousness is how much are we able to stay in the transcendental vibration and be happy and satisfied in the transcendental vibration, whether that be Hari Kirtan or whether that be Hari Katha. Who can hold their concentration, their absorption in the transcendental vibration? Only someone who is awakening prema, one who is experiencing this transformation of the heart. So transformation is complicated because how it occurs is not in a stereotyped way. If each one of us look at our lives, these are many, many factors of transformation. We may feel strong in one part, we may feel a lack of transformation in another aspect. How exactly our heart transforms, it may not be clear to us, but by seeing the whole picture of transformation, at least we may get a sense of where transformation is strong and where transformation is maybe not so strong. What I'm going to ask you to do, just for a few minutes, is turn to whoever's around you, and I just want you to share with them